Well, welcome to Matt Knaggs, and I wanted to talk with you about your run across Ireland despite MS, and you're now, 5 years into MS?
Six,
wow.
Yeah.
So I was excited to hear what you had to say about that, and it's quite the endeavor. A lot of people slow down with MS, and you clearly are speeding up, which is a nice thing. But tell us a little bit about the race or what the run, and then we'll got a couple questions.
Sure. So on June 29th, I'll be running the length of Ireland, so the southernmost tip to the northernmost tip, along with another MS friend of mine, Colin Goodman. He and I met in my online support group I started 6 years ago, running with MS. And we'll be meeting in person for the first time to run 350 miles together across Ireland to raise money for 3 different MS charities and to raise awareness. And we're going to be joined by Colin's brother, Andrew, as well. And should be an exciting adventure.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, really. I mean, beautiful green country, and hopefully your weather holds, but it's...
So far, I can almost see the forecast, and it looks like it's going to be beautiful.
That's
like
good.
Mid-60s, and who knows about rain? That's always,
Yeah.
never know, but that's why Ireland's so green.
Well, it keeps you cool. If it rains, it'll be a little easier to stay cool, so that's all good. But
Yep.
no, that's intense. So some questions. Marathon runners talk about respecting the distance. You know that better than most. And, the unforgiving test of endurance and things like that. But my question for you is, what has distance running taught you about multiple sclerosis, and what has having multiple sclerosis taught you about distance running? What made you better in both?
Well, let's see. The first, what has MS taught me about distance running? I'd have to say, for me, it's taught me to learn where my limits are and to recognize that my limits are maybe a moving target. And that goes in either direction. So there are the periods of time where I'm being impacted by my MS much more, to where I have to do substantially less, or maybe I can't do anything physically active at all. I have occasionally had periods where I'm largely bedridden. So it's accepting those limits as they come and adapting as needed, always with the hopes that if it's an enforced limit that's keeping me back from what I'd like to do, that it's temporary, which thankfully for me so far has largely been the case when that's happened. But then on the opposite side of that, it's also the more and more I work at things, I've seen where my limits have expanded, where when I was diagnosed, I couldn't even walk a mile without being in excruciating pain, having electrical shocks pulsate through my body. And over time, being able to build on top of what I was able to do has helped me to go from 1 mile to, originally my goal was, I'd love to run a half marathon again. And I moved from that to marathons, to ultra marathons, to multi-day ultras.
Wow.
And that's happened very gradually. That takes a lot of patience. Then what has distance running taught me about multiple sclerosis? I'll say it can also remind me of my limitations quite quickly, and remind me that MS is sometimes going to get in the way of even the big things that we were hoping for, that you can be as well trained and prepared as you'd like to be, but if it's a day where MS is going to do its thing, there is no amount of mind over matter that's going to help you to do it exactly the way you planned. And so it's taught me to be more adaptive and resilient, and accepting that in running we often say there's an A goal and a B goal. And it's A goal is MS isn't involved and here's what everything looks like. B goal is just getting through it.
Yeah.
And you never know what kind of day you're going to have and whether or not MS is going to play a big role. And so it's just being able to adapt.
It's interesting. No, I think and you probably understand it. I mean, MS is a bit of a marathon in itself, so the lessons can kind of go both ways, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
And for people that don't know, you and I are almost neighbors. I remember
Yeah.
we met because I'm watching your Instagram posts, and I'm like, I think I've seen that fence before. That looks really familiar.
Yeah, very nuanced areas I run through that if you recognize, you clearly live here.
Yeah, but I can witness and test that I've seen you building up over time, so it's really impressive going from, I think, where you were when I first started noticing to running across the U.S. and now running across Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
So that's really inspiring, and I think it speaks a lot to what you can do with MS too, just kind of building up, being patient, and having your A goals and B goals for each day sometimes.
That patience is critical. Like you said, MS is like a marathon also, or maybe like an ultra marathon, right? Like there's not an end in sight, and that sounds sad or something, but it's more of a reality that we live with, right?
Yep.
And I've seen you exercise that patience through your ups and downs as well, and it's a journey, and a lot of people think progress looks like this, and truthfully, progress looks a lot more like this, but as long as it trends in that upward direction, I tend to say it's all good.
Yeah. I'm kind of like we were talking about the weather. I kind of view it a little bit like that sometimes, and that trend is moving towards running in spring, summer now, and it's nice, and that's good. Running in the middle of winter would have been a tougher story, but
Yeah.
Kind of choosing and pacing, timing things, it makes a difference. But yeah, that's helpful. Another question, because I know you're a parent and I know how important that is to you. I think MS can have a way of kind of rewriting what people think that they're capable of when you get that diagnosis, and I've even seen it rewriting what people think of themselves as parents, and that's a tough one. Running across Ireland is a pretty huge rewrite for what's possible. And my question, if you're okay with, is what do you hope your kids take away from this, watching you do this?
It's actually something I find myself repeating to them often, and I hope it is abundantly clear, and it's that we can do hard things. And it starts with just believing that it's possible. Because when we tell ourselves we can't, our brain then is wired to convince us that we're right. So if we start with, that's not possible, I cannot do that, then every little obstacle that comes up along the way is gonna seem much bigger, because our brain's gonna wanna prove us right and say, no, you can't get past that obstacle. So instead, it is, for me, as far as my kids are concerned, it's showing them, like, hey, if your 40-something-year-old dad with MS can run the length of Ireland, like, when you come up against hard things, whether it's a test you're studying for or something physical you're working at, whatever it may be, like that strength that you learn, that self-belief, it applies across all disciplines. So it's not as though doing hard things for me is just in the physical realm. It's, no, if I've done this really hard thing when it seemed impossible and I figured that out, then these other areas of my life, the same can be true. And that's one of the biggest things for me as a parent.
Oh, that's huge. That's a really powerful lesson to impart, that they take that in, and with you as the example, that there's a lot that they can do with that. I love that.
Yeah, and I hope it rings true not just for my kids, but also people that are following along in our journey. I've been telling people, hey, you may not be in a position to, heck, even put in the time to train for running the length of Ireland. Maybe you are at a different point in your MS journey or your ability journey, and something that seems nearly impossible to you could be just walking from here to over there.
Yeah.
And I tell people, find your Ireland. Like for me, this thing that I'm doing 6 years ago, completely out of the realm of possibility. And for me, getting to the point of even being able to walk a mile without being in excruciating pain was just as big of a deal and worth celebrating as what I'm hopefully about to do in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, I love that. Find your Ireland. People we're not watching before the cameras were turned on, but my Ireland is apparently in my kitchen. But you complimented how well I was moving across the kitchen, which 5 years ago I was in a wheelchair. So it's that same kind of a process. And while it's not Ireland, I really like that. I think our Ireland is very individual to each of us, but whatever we take on, and if they can see themselves in what you're doing, I think that's great. I think we all kind of have to have that vision.
And it's not about comparing yourself to anybody else. It's more about comparing yourself to what you are capable of and looking at where you've been and how much progress you've made. And for anyone that's feeling as though their progress has remained somewhat stagnant also and feels like, oh, that means I'm not doing well. You more than anybody know your own body, like what you're up against, what you're dealing with. And so maybe being stagnant is a victory in and of itself, that you're able to even maintain the level of ability that you have. And so to somebody externally that doesn't understand what you're dealing with MS, doesn't understand the mental, physical, emotional challenges that come along with it, they might say, oh, good for this person, they're keeping steady. Whereas when you know how much it takes to even just keep steady, that's also worth celebrating.
Yeah, no, I like that. So, no, and I think recognizing and celebrating ourselves and giving ourselves credit as we go along it's easy to beat ourselves up, and I'm not doing enough, and this isn't going. And like you said before, if you believe you can do it or you don't do it, you're right. But if you believe you're succeeding with MS, then I find that's a step in the right direction. That's one step closer to actually doing what I want to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was first diagnosed and working with my neurologist, I was asking him, what are all the things I should be doing to minimize a potential negative outcome? And one of the things that he said was, statistics won't back me up on this, but I've been seeing MS patients for 20 years. And he said, I can tell you that there's a high correlation between patients that remain optimistic versus those that do not. So whatever you can do to keep a positive outlook will serve you well. And thankfully, and I recognize not all people have the same disposition, so to speak, but I was already an optimistic person just by nature. So I'm not going to say it's always been easy. In fact, right after I was diagnosed, I went through a period of depression. But for the most part, I've tried to always find the silver lining, the things that nobody asks to get MS. But at the same time, there have been so many great things that have happened in my life because of MS. And so just trying to find the things to be thankful for and to remain positive about can really have a huge impact.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And, that optimism, sometimes it gets thrown around. People talk about toxic positivity and stuff like that. And I get that. And reality is the thing. But seeing the best possible truth, seeing the best possible side of things, believing that things are possible, there's so much uncertainty that comes with MS, but I think one of the lessons for me is recognizing that uncertainty can go both ways.
True.
And yes, it can go down, but it can also go up, and your experience is good proof of that. Going from where you started 5-6 years ago to now doing something that most people without MS would not even undertake. I mean, this is a big thing. And you've got the Guinness World Book Records, I understand. This is pretty cool.
If we finish it and meet all of the requirements, by the way, like meeting their requirements, you might think that that's just yep, we did it. Oh no, I mean, it's almost a full-time job documenting everything that's required for it, getting witness signatures along the way. I mean, I have a 70-page book from Guinness of everything that I need to know in order to be compliant with the requirements. So yeah, it's pretty intense. I learned a lot in this process.
No, but that's an undertaking in itself. But I mean, again, I think that speaks to the magnitude of what you're doing. So obviously I hope you get the world record credit, but even if you didn't, you're still playing at that league, and that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, it would be really cool to be able to say, hey, we got a Guinness World Record. But the whole purpose behind that was we felt it would help us kind of raise the bar in terms of the awareness we could raise. So just having it be recognized as an official attempt even has already, I think, helped in that regard. And if we finish the run successfully, which successfully is getting from point A to point B without any major injuries, that's going to be huge.
Yeah.
And hopefully the world record comes along with it, but if not, that was never the purpose.
No, but maybe you'll inspire somebody out there to have their version of an MS world record, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
If not Ireland, something like that. I
Sure.
think we can all strive for that. So that's cool. That's a nice twist on all this.
Mm-hmm.
So you've done a lot of these interviews, and I'm grateful that you're here for this, but I wanted to ask, what's a question that no one has asked you so far that you've wanted to answer? What?
Oh, man, put me on the spot with that one. I gotta think for a second. I don't know if anyone's asked me what I'm most excited about, oddly enough. And,
what are you most excited about?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to pick just one thing, really. First and foremost, I'd say I've developed this great virtual relationship with Colin over the last 4 years now. And he's become one of my closest friends. And by proxy, I'll say, his brother as well, we've formed a relationship. And so getting to meet them both in person is something I'm really looking forward to, because the three of us together have the worst combined sense of humor that you can imagine. So it's going to be a lot of fun, or as the Irish say, great crack. That's C-R-A-I-C, in case you're wondering. But yeah, so I'm really excited about just getting to spend time, getting to know those guys better. And, I'd say putting a name to a face, but I mean, we FaceTime regularly. And so it's more about putting a height to a name, because you can never quite tell that over virtual calls. How tall are you really? So that's one of the things I'm excited about. Seeing the Irish countryside. I mean, I've been to Dublin, I've been to Cork. I've seen limited areas there, obviously, mainly the touristy things. And I'm going to be seeing much of Ireland, and areas that a lot of tourists don't typically go to, unless you're from Ireland or Northern Ireland and just exploring the country. And I'm super excited for that. Fingers crossed that we'll see puffins along the way. That's one of my big hopes. And third, I am really excited for my family to get there. They'll be there on the second to last day and last day of the run. And I'm sure being away from them for, at that point, it will have been about 10 days. I think that's going to be the longest I've ever been away from my wife and kids.
Wow.
So having them show up and, cheering me on, and then we're going to spend extra time as a family together in Europe afterwards, is something I'm really looking forward to.
Nice. Well, I love that this is a powerful experience for you personally. I mean, seeing Ireland at a pace that most people would not. Most people are going to maybe see it out of a tour bus or something
Right.
like that. But imagine being right up there with people. I don't know if you've got people that will be joining you or cheering you on, but I would imagine you would.
Yeah.
For something like this, and that just blending into that fabric has got to be really cool. And then the piece that you mentioned, with your family being part of it and making that experience, and that's some happy memories.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. So, for people that want to support you and take a role in this virtually and help make this happen, where should they go? What do they need to do to keep an eye on this or to contribute?
The website, it's, I think, easy to remember. msrunsireland.com, and there you can donate to any of the charities that we're supporting. You can see we've done other interviews. We were on, I call it the Good Morning America of Ireland. It's called Ireland AM, their biggest morning news show, talk show. And we've done an interview with Montel Williams, so you can check those things out there. And then we'll also be showing our progress. At the end of each day, we'll be kind of uploading the route we took and how long did it take, have some pictures uploaded so you can literally follow along each day and see how we're coming along as we make our way across Ireland.
Nice. Well, we'll share that. The irony of us both being in Toledo, people are going to think there's something in the water with the MS. But it's, I think, I realized, when I first saw you on Instagram, I'm like, what are the chances we get two people with MS on Instagram that are like, as it turned out,
Stone's throw away.
yeah, a walking distance even for me.
Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing. But I think it's a cool thing for the Toledo MS community and for the MS community worldwide, clearly. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, Ken.
So thank you for coming out and doing this. I appreciate it, and we'll be cheering you on. So.
Thank you.